Joining me live on this extensive coverage, T.S. Hudhud from Hyderabad, from Gopalpur in Odisha is Manogya Loiwal, and from Delhi, from the IMD, is Jaskirat Singh Bawa. Manogya, coming to you now, is just an hour away when the landfall is, when cyclone Hudhud makes its landfall. What is the situation there in Gopalpur as of now?
Extremely grim, and of course the fact that the people are eagerly waiting for the cyclone to pass away. The wait over the night has been extensive because they couldn't sleep. There was no power supply in the area. All communication lines have been shut or rather disrupted in various parts of the city. There is a lot of wave also in the sea. We've seen the sea turning violent in past few hours. The way it has been extending, the way it has turned violent, you can see the waves rising higher and higher, and perhaps that is what's signaling the arrival of Hudhud in this area. The fact that Hudhud will be hitting more northwards and will be having more impact towards its north and the right hand rather. This is expected to make a landfall in another hour or so, and the winds blowing here faster and faster and even more windy than what it was just around an hour ago gives you an idea on how gusty it is now. Well, on the contrary, the beaches have been vacated completely. There are police officials who have been deployed in various parts of the city of Gopalpur and of course surrounding areas. Even as we speak, there is evacuation that is continuously going on in various parts of Ganjam district. We spoke to the officials of Ganjam district who confirmed that around 46,000 people have been evacuated just in the coastal areas of Odisha. Odisha government has been very cautious this time. They want to go in the way they had gone in the efforts of filling. And if the winds, I tell you, are extremely, the way they're hitting on the face, it's extremely difficult to even stand and talk even as we speak on camera, and also bring our viewers the best possible coverage and of course the view of the sea here. We've seen that the sea has been changing its mode and pace in past few hours, and is expected to become even more violent in the coming few hours. The wind is just going to get stronger, more breezy here, and it would be even more difficult for the people to stay indoors. They have been evacuated to shelters. The biggest challenge for the state government would be evacuating not only the people but also ensuring that the roads are cleared at the earliest, because there will be felling of trees, there will be difficulty in transportation, there will be difficulty in communication, and these are the biggest challenge for the state government. But completely depends on what kind of situation arises after the cyclone passes from here, after the impact of the cyclone, what would be the total impact of the cyclone and how much damage it does to the area.
Right, Manogya, you've been talking to people around you in Gopalpur over there. Is there a sense of panic among people? And they've also heard that people are unwilling to move to rescue, to relief operations. The sites and the tents over there with relief materials are being provided by the NDRF and the state government. Is there a sense of panic among people over there?
The people are living under fear from past 1 week. They are feeling that if it will be stronger than Phelan, it would be very difficult for them to cope up with it. Because just 1 year back, Phelan hit here on 12th of October, and again a tryst with the cyclone exactly on the same date, this time on a Sunday, and perhaps making it even more difficult. Shops were closed since yesterday. Almost everyone has managed all the essentials and stocked it at home. But for them, leaving their home and moving out, biggest trouble would be during the inundated coastline, which is expected to get at least 100 meters of water into it, which will make it very difficult for people. For the state government, the biggest challenge will be to ensure that people are not only evacuated, but there is a chance of a flood-like situation. In case Gopalpur is not in the eye of the storm, because it will be hitting Vizag a few kilometers away from here, it would be difficult for them to manage it, because the impact of rain will be much more higher in Odisha. The Ganjam district, the nearby districts of Malkangiri and of course Gajapati district, all these districts will have the maximum impact, and that's the reason, because these districts are not on the seashore, but still the wind and the rainfall will have the maximum impact, and that's the reason why they're actually preparing, not basically for the hitting of the cyclone or for the eye of the storm, but for the flood-like situation that would be arising here, which is also being monitored by state government and by the Chief Minister himself since morning.
Right, over to T.S. Hudhud now. Hudhud, as Manogya was saying, the state government in Odisha is closely monitoring the situation. What is the situation in Andhra Pradesh for now?
Well, Amita, the focus so far has been on Visakhapatnam city and the neighboring areas because the cyclone is expected to pass about 30 to 40 kilometers north of Visakhapatnam. But the major concern is also in the other two neighboring districts of Vizianagaram and Srikakulam, especially with regard to flooding that may take place after the landfall actually takes place between 11 and 12 this afternoon. But yes, the focus is on Visakhapatnam, which is now looking like a city which has been plunged into darkness. The electricity lines have been snapped, which has been power supply has been shifted, has been turned off since midnight last night, because obviously the officials do not want to take any chances. They have told people not to venture out because at many areas the trees have been uprooted, the banners, the hoardings are all flying in the air, so obviously any kind of mishaps can take place. So they want people to stay indoors, but with winds gushing at about 180 to 195 kilometers per hour, obviously the city is really looking like a very scared city at the moment. Those are the kind of reports that we are getting from Visakhapatnam. From other areas like Srikakulam, the national highway, luckily the traffic was stopped, so as a result of which we do not have those kind of traffic snarls along the national highway between Visakhapatnam and Kolkata. But yes, there's a serious danger of all those rivulets and rivers which are in those two districts actually getting flooded as a result of the heavy rainfall that we have been seeing since last night.
Right, Sudhir, what are going to be the major challenges for the government over there? Is the Andhra Pradesh government closely monitoring the situation? And do we have any reports of any casualty from Andhra Pradesh as of now?
Well, the state government is monitoring the situation very closely because the first priority, of course, is to minimize loss of human life, loss of livestock, because that's going to be the priority, and which is why 3 lakh people were shifted to the relief camps in these 5 districts of East-West Godavari and the 3 North Coastal districts by last night. And they want to ensure that none of these people are actually allowed to go back to their homes near the coast, especially even after landfall has taken place, because they know that the time between 12 noon and 6 p.m. is also going to be critical because rainfall is going to be heavy and there can be damage to property, and they do not want to take any chances, especially with houses and property which are kacha in nature. So that's priority number 1. Priority number 2 is to ensure that communication lines are restored as quickly as possible, because they do realize that the towers may fail, the power supply is already switched off, but it may also snap naturally over a period of the next 5 to 6 hours. So obviously the army, the NDRF and the district administration along this 5 coast in trying to ensure that flooding is in control, and also the fact that these rivulets do not get flooded. If I can just ask Jaskirat, what is the IMD telling you, Jaskirat, where you are? What are their expectations of the kind of impact the cyclone Hudhud will create once landfall takes place and the entire thing crosses the Andhra coast?
Well, according to the IMD, the cyclone technically has already hit the Andhra coast. However, the eye of the storm, as of about 15 minutes ago, was about 45 kilometers away from Visakhapatnam, which means in the last 15 minutes, at the speed of about 150 kilometers per hour, it has already traveled a little further closer to Visakhapatnam. The eye of the storm will be crossing over Visakhapatnam Vizag area in about the next 45 minutes to 1 hour or so is what the IMD is expecting, which is going to be very close to noon. Once that happens, they are expecting the wind speed to actually drastically increase once the landfall is made. The 6 hours between noon and 6 p.m. today is going to be the very crucial phase. Whatever will be the major impact, what have we seen, the pictures that we've seen so far, they are not going to be a good indicator about the actual damage that will be caused. What they feel is that the 6 hours between 12 noon and 6 p.m. will be where the main impact will be felt, and the pictures coming out after that is going to give the better indication as to what the damage was really like. When they expect this cyclone to actually reduce in speed is once it actually reaches the Odisha part of its projected path, which will be in the next 12 hours or so.
Right, Jaskirat, we will continue to track the cyclone with you at the IMD. In fact, my colleague Sanjay Sharma, who is in Visakhapatnam, in a sense ground zero of cyclone Hudhud, sent us this report from this port city.
तूफान की दूरी से इसके विकरालता का अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता था, लेकिन अब इसकी विकरालता देखकर यह अंदाजा सहज ही लगाया जा सकता है कि तूफान तो सर पर आ गया है। अब तो जितनी जल्दी निकल जाए उतना ही बेहतर है। कैमरामैन साजिद आलम के साथ संजय शर्मा, विशाखापट्टनम, आज तक।
We can confirm to you that the landfall is almost going to get made. In fact, over the next 1 hour, we do expect that cyclone Hudhud will cross the Andhra coast a little north of Visakhapatnam. The three north coastal districts of Visakhapatnam, Vizianagaram and Srikakulam are the ones which are going to be most affected as a result of cyclone Hudhud. Of course, heavy rainfall taking place in the coastal districts of South Odisha, also districts like East and West Godavari in Andhra Pradesh. But these three districts of Vizag, Vizianagaram and Srikakulam, these are the ones which are going to face the brunt of cyclone Hudhud. And we can also get you news, in fact, that of two people have reportedly died, one in Srikakulam and one in Visakhapatnam, in rain-related deaths. This is the news that we are getting it at the moment. Our reporters have been reporting from Odisha, Visakhapatnam and Srikakulam on the kind of havoc that has been created as a result of high wind speeds almost going up to 180 kilometers per hour, and also rainfall since last night in all these districts. They have been bringing you these images, and the images that you can see on your screen right now, the naval dockyard in Visakhapatnam has also been breached, and that's how the sea is looking. Extremely rough condition. Of course, for the last 48 hours, fishermen were told not to venture into the seas because it was extremely choppy. But yes, the wind speed in Visakhapatnam in particular, making it extremely risky for anyone to venture out. In fact, the district administration in Visakhapatnam has advised residents to stay indoors, asked people not to venture in any kind of cyclone tourism because they do say that it is very risky with banners and hoardings and trees being uprooted. Very, very dangerous for people to actually venture out. Electricity has been cut off as a precautionary measure in all these districts. The national highway was blocked yesterday evening. So what happens now is that there is no traffic flowing between Visakhapatnam and Odisha towards Srikakulam. So obviously taking no chances, the district administration wants to wait for the cyclone to pass, the landfall to take place, and even after that, the time period between 12 and 6 is going to be extremely critical. Let me cut across to my colleague Manogya Loiwal, who has been reporting from Gopalpur in Odisha. Manogya, of course, we saw the Odisha government doing a fantastic job during Cyclone Phylon exactly 1 year ago. What would you say have been the major lessons learned which have been put into practice this time to ensure that Gopalpur or the other Odisha districts like Ganjam, Gajapati, Malkangiri do not kind of undergo the kind of trauma that they underwent last year?
Sudhir, first of all, they have considered that this time the mental trauma of the people would be less because there's no hype of the cyclone. They know that it is going to suffice the fact that they have been evacuating people in different parts of these four districts. The coastal districts have been alerted. They have been continuously being monitored. They have been alerted on the fact that they have also been given intimation that the seashores need to be kept absolutely clean and clear from any people around it. There have been people who have been visiting these seashores and sitting on the sea beaches, especially the fishermen who are in the habit of regularly coming on to the sea early in the morning.
Right.
We met a lot of them in the early morning also, but most of them have now been sent away from the sea beaches, kept clean. And also the fact that the stormy sea that you see behind me is itself speaking that the landfall of cyclone Hudhud is just a few minutes away, has almost taken place in Vizag,
right,
and will be just a few meters or a few minutes away from here in Gopalpur too.